Hey everyone, RogueGold here, welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be breaking down the new Divide and Conquer seasonal modifier that has just been released to the game as part of the Year 7 Season 2, the Pact update. Per usual, whenever we get a new season, I've been getting a slew of questions about how do these new modifiers work, what are these symbols above enemies' heads, so I just want to come on here, try to clear that all up. Yeah, we'll get straight to it, I don't have too much else to say. This week I did come down with a pretty nasty bug, so if I sound off in this video, that's why. But yeah, if you enjoy and you find this helpful, you want to see more of my coverage on the Division 2, then be sure to click that subscribe button. Shout out and thank you to our channel members for your ongoing support. I wouldn't be here without you, so thank you so much. But without further ado, let's go. Alright, so here we are in game, and as per usual, I just want to begin with a very quick recap of the modifier system overall. Basics of them. Firstly, to access everything involving modifiers, you want to go into your inventory right here to your shade brick between your specialization and the shade watch. Clicking on this will show you everything you need to know, including the global modifier right here that we're going to go over, your actives, passives. You can also tab over to view the hostile modifiers. So everything you need is right here. This is also where, if you want to, you can deactivate the modifier system altogether. As you see at the bottom, there's a button to deactivate. If you don't want to engage with this system, you don't want it active in gameplay, you can just deactivate at any point in time and it'll be gone. Similarly, if you want to turn it back on, you do the exact same thing, activate. Do note that there is a bonus for playing with modifiers. You get a 10% season XP boost to your overall gain of that XP. So beyond the obvious gameplay power that you get by using these, there is a little bit of incentive there as well. And then finally, for us how to unlock these various things, because you start out with the global modifier, but you have to go and unlock some of these other bits to start using them. That all happens within the seasonal journey. If we back out here and I go to my seasons menu, tab over to the journey. If we look at journey chapter 2 or mission 2, you'll see that this is what gives you all of the active modifiers in one go. So you will need to complete at least 6 of the 8 objectives here under Journey 2 and then claim the rewards here to get all of your active modifiers. As for the passive ones, those are rewarded by individual journey objectives. As you can see, 5 of the 8 here in Journey 2 give you some of them there. You can see under the rewards on the right side. And then as we continue moving on, Journey 3, this gives you unfriendly fire 4. So you can see throughout here, there are various of these smaller objectives that will give you passive modifiers as their rewards. So you can target those individual objectives if there are any particular passive modifiers that you want to try and get. Alright, to begin, let's talk about the global modifier. As per usual, this is the base modifier and mechanic that everything else is revolving itself around. So for this season, it's called Divide and Conquer, and it reads as follows. Gain a rate of fire bonus for each contested name zone on the current map, up to 30% rate of fire. Gain a rate of fire and weapon damage bonus for each name zone under complete SHD control, up to 30% rate of fire and 30% weapon damage. Below that, it then breaks down the various named zone allocations. So on the current map, I'm in DC, it says there are 11 named zones in total. Out of those 11, 6 of them are currently contested, whereas 4 are under complete SHD control or friendly control. And therefore, my bonuses break down as follows: 28% rate of fire and 19% damage. It says the maximum bonus is the same on any map, regardless of how many name zones it has. The per name zone bonus scales accordingly. So if we back out of here and take a look at my map, this is how you're going to gain that bonus for the global modifier. It's all about which zones are friendly and contested. So for example here, we're looking at the East Mall, where I have 2 of the control points as friendly, whereas 2 are hostile. And if you look up at the top right, it says East Mall. It tells me the targeted loot allocation, what level, and then it says status, which is currently hostile. If it reads as hostile, that means it's contested in terms of the modifier. So instead of getting both a rate of fire and weapon damage boost for this zone, I would only be getting the rate of fire, because that one you can get the bonus even if they're contested. By comparison though, if you look at the zone right below here, this is the southwest zone where I have both of the control points friendly, and that is how you claim a zone essentially. And you can see up at the top right, it says the status of this zone is friendly. So in this case, I'm getting the bonus for both rate of fire and damage from this zone specifically. And again, that's divided by 11 total zones across DC. So the interval is going to be different on DC compared to the likes of New York or Brooklyn, because 30 divided by 11 is roughly 2.7%, right? So for this one zone that I have under friendly control, this would be giving me 2.7% roughly rate of fire and damage. The one above here would only be giving me 2.7% rate of fire. And then if I were to have a zone that is completely hostile, it's not contested, I don't have one of the control points, so for me, right here, that is the Judiciary Square, then I would be getting no bonuses whatsoever, right? Not the rate of fire, not the damage. But if I then came here and took one of the control points, I would then at least be getting the rate of fire bonus. If I went and took both, that's how I would get the rate of fire and the damage bonus from that zone. I have then quickly jumped over to New York here to show you this one as well. So here I have much more of the map friendly. In fact, all three of these zones are friendly. I think this has a visual bug in the top where it still says it's hostile because it should be friendly. And that's reflected when I go into my modifier menu and I look at this. Right here, it says I have the full 30% rate of fire bonus, and I have 25% of the damage bonus. And so that is why that bottom paragraph is important, is that it's saying the total maximum, regardless of which map you're playing on, is still going to be 30%. But because, as you can read above, there are only 4 total named zones within New York, that means that when I have 3 of them controlled, that I'm getting a lot of the total bonus, whereas 1 is still contested, and that is setting me back by just a little bit. Final example, I am now in Brooklyn here, where there's only 2 named zones total. This one I have friendly, this one is contested, and when we go look in the modifier menu, it will reflect that by saying there's only 2 total named zones, one's friendly, one's contested, and so I'm getting those following bonuses there. The final point I wanted to then show you is that there is a visual indicator for this on screen when you're out in the open world playing. You'll see it right up below my radar there. What this is indicating, each of the notches shows how many total named zones there are within the world. I just went away, but I'll be sure to show you the screenshot. So because I'm in DC, there should be 11 segments there, I believe. If you were in New York, there'd be 4. In Brooklyn, there would be 2. The brighter orange bars are indicating to you which zones are friendly. In other words, which ones are giving you the maximum bonus of both rate of fire and damage, whereas the duller orange bars are which ones are contested or giving you the rate of fire bonus only. Moving on, let's then talk about our active modifiers, as this is where probably the most amount of attention and change has gone into the overall system this season. So we have 5 of these in total, and each of these are linked up to one of the hostile factions' gameplay fantasies. So for example, we have advanced material here. This links up to the True Sons fantasy of like heavy artillery. Sanitation is based around the cleaners. Zealot is the outcast. Say Cheese is the Rikers, and Spiced Up is hyenas. And they each obviously do very different things, right? You can read the descriptions and it will tell you exactly what they do. And just to demonstrate, if we slot one of these in, let's say we go with Say Cheese, and then I go into a gameplay area, you will see that the cooldown for these is shown on the right side of your HUD, right next to my skills and armor kit value. That number that's ticking down is how long we have left until we can use the ability again. And once it's ready, you'll see it flashes orange there, and then it just shows the activation button, which for me on controller is up on the D-pad. So if I press that, it's going to activate the ability. We blinded this guy right here, so that's all well and good. There have been some big changes made, though, to this, and that's what I want to talk about in terms of how these can actually, this season, be leveled up. So as you'll see at the very top, it says Say Cheese, level 1, and my progress is 792 out of 1000, and that will change for each of these because I'm at various points of progression. So yeah, this season, the active modifiers can be ranked up, and in turn, that gives you increasing amounts of power with them. If you look towards the bottom there, it shows you what the stats of this ability are at its current level, shows you the cooldown, the range, the radius, all of that. But the next time I rank this up, which in this case would be to rank 2, it shows you what the new abilities or the new stats will be. I get a cooldown reduction, a range increase, a radius increase. And then additionally, these each have an effect. You can see at the very bottom that if I get Say Cheese here to rank 3, then when I eliminate hostiles while using a shield, that reduces the cooldown by 1 second. And that goes for each of these. They have their own effect. Some of them you have to get to level 5, whereas Say Cheese here and Sanitation is only rank 3. But that is an entirely new system, right? We haven't seen this before where you can rank up the modifiers and get new abilities with them as you go on. So how exactly do you go about ranking these up? Well, it is the outline in the final paragraph there of each of the descriptions of these. So on this one, it says to level up this modifier, eliminate hostiles while this modifier is equipped, or complete retaliations against the Rikers. And this is going to be the same for all of these, except it matches out which faction is listed for, whatever faction lines up with the modifier. So for Spiced Up, you have to eliminate hostiles while it's equipped, or complete hyena retaliations. Advanced Material is going to be True Sons, Sanitation Cleaners. You get the idea. So yeah, either you can get killed heals while a certain one is equipped, or you don't even have to have it equipped in theory, but if I were to go and do a retaliation against the Rikers, even while this is unequipped, we'll do it right there, I would still get progress for it because I'm fighting that faction. So that should be most of what you need to know about these. Again, they all do various different things. This is a highlight of the season modifiers. This time around, the abilities here are pretty cool, but understanding how to level these up, the new abilities they get, is very important. It's tied into your journey progression, for example. So yeah, hopefully you get a sense of what's going on there. Taking a look at the passive modifiers, there's honestly not too much to explain with these this season. As you can see, we have 10 in total, and these are broken into 2 different sections, that being between universal and faction. So all this means is that the universal ones can activate and work against any enemy type, regardless of who you're fighting or what content you're doing, whereas the faction ones only work against certain factions. Go figure. So for example, Unfriendly Fire here reads Hyenas. Shooting a hyena's shield deflects your bullets, dealing 50% of that damage to each enemy within 10 meters of the target. Whereas Quicksand is for the True Sons. Breaking an immobilizer's weak point applies foam to all enemies within 20 meters of the target. So if I were to slot in Quicksand here, but then I go and do a Hyena's mission or retaliation, this would effectively be useless, right? Because I'm not going to find any immobilizers. So really all you need to keep in mind is that if you want to use one of these faction specific ones, be sure to slot in and slot out only when you're fighting that faction itself. Otherwise, the universal ones will work against any enemy type, any faction. But yeah, that's what we've got going on there. Alright, and then finally, let's talk about the hostile modifiers. This is one of the, most prominent questions I get each season is, what are these new symbols that are appearing above enemies? So as you can see, we can view 2 of them right here. That guy has a purple one, whereas this one is red. What do they mean? Well, once again, if we go into our modifier menu, you can click the button to look at your hostile ones instead. We've got 3 in total. As per usual, these kind of align with the 3 main archetypes, that being DPS, tanking, and skills. So out of mind here is the damage focused one. It says that after taking no damage for 5 seconds, the affected enemy gets those following bonuses. Damaging the enemy removes that boost and restarts the timer. So for anyone who has that hostile modifier, you're going to see that kind of bar. That's what this guy has right here. If I shoot him once, then you'll see that it got rid of that red ring and it now has to rebuild up. Because that's what it said. For as long as they are taking damage, they then won't get the boost. But it's kind of like an attention-based modifier, where if you have a lot of enemies that have that and you're not paying attention to some of them, they're going to get that bonus, be able to deal more damage to you. Alright, I reset the mission here so they wouldn't be shooting me. If we take a look at what this purple one means, let's go back to the menu here, flip over. That's going to be our skill-focused one called Overwatch. And as you can see, it means that the affected enemy will gain an overheal equal to 2 times their base health while they have a gadget deployed. All you have to do then is destroy that gadget, and that will then remove the overheal from the enemy. Alright, and then finally, I fast traveled to give you a look at the last one, which is called Wedge. That's the yellow icon that you're seeing there. And you notice how from the enemy that has it, there are those lines going to each of the other units within this little squad. That all ties into how this one works. They're about to see me here, but I will do that and run away. So what that indicates, again, you can see that same line happening through the wall here. If we go into view it, so for whichever hostile has Wedge, it means that the affected enemy applies a 5% outgoing damage boost to themselves and allies within 10 meters. And each additional ally within 10 meters increases the boost up to a maximum of 30% damage. So all this is really saying is that any enemy nearby, someone who has Wedge, is going to be getting increased damage. And so in terms of target prioritization, you may want to go after whoever has that before some of the other ones so that they're not giving that buff to everybody else. Well, there you have it, folks. That is the rundown for the Divide and Conquer seasonal modifier. Definitely a little bit easier to understand and comprehend this time around compared to last season. And, I like some of the changes they've made here. I think it's cool to have goals to chase in terms of leveling up the actives, and the actual abilities of those things are quite fun too. I look forward to diving into them even more. But at this point, I turn it all over to you. If you have any remaining questions about the season's modifiers that I did not answer within this video, feel free to ask. I will do my very best to respond. And in general, I would love to know your thoughts on what you're thinking about these. Are you enjoying them gameplay wise so far? What do you think about some of the changes they've made, notably with how you have to upgrade the active modifiers? Yeah, let me know. I'll be curious to hear. That is going to do it for me on this one though. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll catch you back soon. RogueGold.